Now let's look at 1.0. You can see there's the same complete record. There's the override I did on the other screen. Everything is exactly the same. Here's the difference. You have a few more controls up here. You can turn on and off piecework, working past midnight. Working past midnight is the feature that resets the clocks at midnight to an end scan. In service, you're probably going to want that checked. That way it won't reset the clocks. It'll run right through to the next day. And then quarter hour rounding rounds, as it says, to the quarter hour, and by default this is usually on. And you can see in this area here it shows 3 steps. There's an hours review, a cost coding, and send to pay admin. Where the other screen, everything was done on one screen. This is 3 separate screens. So we look at on this screen, we review, we edit, we say everything's fine, and then we move it to the next screen. So you have to select the ones that you want to move, and for this record to move to the cost coding screen, so 2 things have to happen. You have to check the box, and there has to be hours in one of these 2 columns, or both. But if both of these are showing 0, it means that it's an incomplete time record and it will not push it to the next step. So in this case we have hours, we've checked the box, and you can see here's how many boxes have been checked, and we're going to go ahead and send it to cost coding. It will explain to you that this will only move records that have hours. Records with no hours will remain on this screen. Okay. So it's going to now take us to screen 2. All records have been submitted to basically move to screen 2. Here we are on screen 2. It's lit up, and there's the record. So here's the big difference. On this screen, you can apply up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cost codes for that time. And we found that 5 cost codes is usually plenty. If you're breaking somebody's time into more than 5 cost codes in a single day, you probably got some issues out there, but it happens. So here we go. There's the hours that we moved. You also have the ability to add a reimbursement here. And if you add a reimbursement, you can cost code that reimbursement to whatever you want. If you place a comment in here, it's a comment to your payroll administrator. They will see that. When you submit the records, they're going to see whatever you put in there. Okay, here's the important part. Notice this allocation. This is a total allocation of all these cost codes. So in this case it shows 100. That's because right now 100% of those 4 hours are being allocated to this cost code. If you want to break it up over multiple cost codes, you can do that. You would have to select the next cost code. Now in this case there's only 1 cost code set up for that job, so I'm going to go ahead and fix that right now by going to the budgets. Here's that job, Ben Keith. You can see you've only got 1 budget or cost code, so I'm going to add a new one. I'm just going to add cost code 101 and call it Branch Raceway. You can put anything you want in there. You can fill out a budgeted quantity, budgeted hours for production tracking if you want, but you don't have to. You notice that the asterisks are only on cost code and budget description. That's what you have to fill out. So I'm going to submit that. And now I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And now I'm going to split this 4 hours between 2 cost codes. When I click the cost code box, now I see that I have an additional cost code. So I'll click OK. Now I've got 2 cost codes. And notice how the box turns green? That's to let you know that you've edited this from the default, from the way it came from screen 1. It's different from the way it came from screen 1. That's just a helpful aid for you. Now let's split it up. Let's say I want to put 50% of those hours over here. So I added 50%. Again, it turns green because I added that. It broke out the 2 hours with no problem at all because it's 50% of that number right there. But notice the total allocation. It's red and it's 150%. If it's red and something other than 100%, it's not going to let you send it to the payroll administrator because it's not ready, it's not complete. So you would look at this and say, what's going on? Well, it's right there. You've got 150%. So what you would have to do is change that to 50. Now it broke it up, 2 hours and 2 hours, and there's 100% allocation. Now you can change it here if you want. But you're going to have to be very careful when you do it that way to make sure that it equals that number. So there's 3 hours and there's 1 hour. And notice it changes the percentages, okay? But the allocation is still 100. So that's a little tricky if you want to change the hours themselves, but you can do that. And that looks okay. I've taken this original 4 hours and split it between 2 cost codes. Now I'm going to check the box and I'm going to say, let's review the timesheet, which is the same as send to pay admin. I know it's a little confusing. So all that does is put it in a timesheet format so that you can view it in that way. And if it looks good to you, at this point you may or may not have both of these options. Manager review, this emails your manager notifying him or her that your review is complete, and for that person to send it to the payroll administrator. Once you do that, you're done. Or you can send it to the payroll administrator directly if you have that permission turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and click it now. And with construction, it's going to ask you, do you want to update your 3-week look ahead? You have a choice, yes or no. In this case, I'll say no. Warning, your changes will be permanent and you will no longer be able to modify these records. Do you want to continue? Yes. Now, it's going to tell you the status. Notice that it cleared the screen down here. They're gone. It says these records have been successfully submitted to payroll. That's good. The payroll email, it will automatically send out emails to people on an email distribution list with this timesheet as an attachment. Email sent successfully to these people, however many people are on that list will be listed here. And if you're reporting quantities for production tracking to the host system, which in this case is Coins, it would have said that you had sent those to Coins, but we didn't report any. And because we're also tracking production inside of ProTracker, those values have been sent and placed properly, so it's working fine inside of ProTracker. And you're done at that point. And if you go back to screen 1, you'll see that your screen is cleared. That's the difference between 1 and 2, or version 1.0 and version 2.0.